Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about a crazy game which was played by two players, and it was a game which was supposed to be a London system, but the player with the black played an amazing opening and tricked white into a novelty which was never played before. The player as white was Sumit and the player with black was Anirban Dasgupta. This game started off with d4, b5, bishop f4, which is the London system, just a different variation. Bishop f4 can be played first, or knight f6. Both are equally as same. Then black plays a novelty which has never been played before in chess history, which is h5. h5 is a tricky move, which you have to be careful of after what we saw in this game. Normally, after h5, people are suggesting that black is playing for the normal alpha 0 move, which is h5, h4, h3, and try to create some blockade. But this time, h5 had a different plan. After h5 was played, white made a mistake, which was e3. e3 is a mistake because you will see that the bishop is getting trapped. After e4, bishop takes e4, f6, bishop g3, bishop g3, h5, h4, bishop f4, g5. The bishop is trapped. So what other option does white have? After e5, if white takes, pawn takes, then comes g5, bishop goes to g3, h4, bishop's trapped. So you can't take the pawn at all. So after e3, e5, black basically has no option, and black is already. So the game started off with d4, d5, bishop f4, which is basically the same as the London system, just a different move order. h5. h5 is a completely new novelty, but as many people might think, h5 is being played because of the common alpha 0 move, which is h5, h4, h3, to try to create weakness in the white's kingside. But this move was played for a different reason. Here, white played e3. e3 is a clear blunder. So I want you to take a minute and try to think why e3 is a blunder. So if you took your time and you found the move e5, well then good job. e5 is a move which was first played by Eric Hansen, but was popularized by Webb of Satia. So after e5, bishop takes. If you saw f6, bishop h3, h4, bishop g4, g5, you can see the bishop's trapped because all the squares which the bishop can go to are blocked by pawns. This is a pretty new idea and is played very rarely. But here, if you go back when white played e3, what was the other opportunity? I think white didn't just got stuck in the pattern of which the London system goes. Because usually you get knight f3 first, then e3. If white had played knight f3 first, there was no opportunity for e5, and then this pawn could be have taken with the knight. So this was the first mistake which white obviously made. You could also have other moves like knight c6, c4, but they don't follow the London system. But here I'm talking about the London system only. So the move was h5, e3, which was a mistake, and here black played e5. Now, when black plays e5, you have to look at things which white can do. So the first few options which come are queen g5, which is a clear blunder because the queen can take the bishop. Bishop g3, pawn takes pawn, and bishop takes pawn. These are the four possible moves. So with bishop g3, we already saw queen takes bishop. Other move is pawn takes pawn, but then we get treated with g5. Forced move is bishop g3, and we get h4, and the bishop's trapped. The other move which can be played here is bishop takes pawn, which was played in the game. Then we have f6, bishop comes to h3, or bishop comes to f4. I think both work. Then g5, bishop g3, and h4. Again, bishop trap. And we saw what happened in the game after bishop came to g3, h4, bishop f4, and then g5 push and the bishop's trap. If you can't take with the bishop, you can take with the pawn. If you go back, kind of play the simple move by going back, then you have the immediate move g4. Again, sorry, not g4, h4. Bishop can go to the square. Bishop is attacked by the pawn, and it can't take because the rook is defending it. So you have to immediately take the pawn. Again, f3. All these squares are gone. Bishop comes back. g4 and the bishop's trapped. This is an amazing move. h5 was a move which most players can't see. And since this was a blitz game, this was pretty much impossible for white to find this unless white had spent some time. So here now we can see after e3 and e5, there are many things white could have done which white did not do. First of all, first move that could be done is d takes e5, which weakens the pawn structure of white, so that's not a good move. Then we have bishop takes e5, and after f6, bishop comes to f4, then we have g5. And in g5, you might feel like your bishop's trapped, but at least white has some playing chances by bringing the knight to e2. And if bishop knight to e2, if pawn takes bishop, knight takes bishop, you have a pretty solid knight, which is controlling a very weak square, attacking the weak pawn, and the f6 pawn is isolated, and the king is very weak. Castling kingside could be a huge mistake after bishop e2 and the threat on this pawn. It's very hard for black to defend, but if you count material, we can easily see that black is up in material, but this is an extremely hard position to hold. So I feel like even if you fall in this trap and you're an aggressive player, I don't think it should be a problem for you, because if you get an open position like this, the attack should be killing. Some possibilities can be after knight takes knight comes to g4. One possibility is to just bring the bishop to e6, and if knight takes pawn, you're at least diverting the knight from this square, which is extremely active. And if knight ever comes back, you can trade, and then you have weakened the structure of white, and then there's some counterplay on the e file. So bishop e5 is, I think, the only move. You have to sacrifice a pawn. If you don't play some move like bishop e5, if you play something like knight e2, not the immediate move, but I feel the best move is bishop e2, eventually crushing this pawn. The king will lose its castling rights, and I think this should be better for white because of the extreme advantage and the weakness of the black's king. So there are some ways you can play with this trap, but now we could see what happened in the game. The game continued on. There were a lot of mistakes in the game, but this trap was the main point I was trying to discuss in this video. After bishop comes to g3, h4, bishop goes to f5, g5. As we can see, all squares of the bishop are gone. The player with white played bishop e2, queen e2. I think Anirban's plan was after pawn takes, he sees that there's some counterplay on the e file, and he felt like there was something he could get out of this position. But if we look at the computer evaluation, it says it's lost, but I don't think it's easy for a human to hold this position as black. And in the game, that's what we saw. Bishop e7, which is okay, but I feel a better move would have been knight e7. The idea being, your knight is a pretty solid piece here, and plus the c5 square is something f5 square is something I really want to take care of. And developing the bishop to b7, and after you castle, at least there's some shield for your king with your bishop and your knight kind of protecting that area, because knight can also come to g6, and it's a pretty not solid position, but a holdable position for black. But okay, bishop e7 is not a mistake, it's just a small inaccuracy. Then comes knight f3, developing move. Knight c6, also developing move. Knight c3. Here we're seeing all basic moves, nothing. Queen b5 was something I felt was premature from white, because with queen c5, you have one move threat, which is attacking the pawn. But I felt like if white just long castles here in this position, this rook can come to e1, and then you have a devastating attack on the king, which is uncastled. And because the knight can't come to e7, we'll have to go to h6, and this position can collapse pretty easily because this pawn will be hanging soon, and this c5 square will be controlled by the knight. So I feel like this long castle move would have taken, but queen b5 is not a bad move. It's just a premature one. So rook b8 here is a mistake, I feel. A better move would have been bishop b4, because I feel like with black you have a piece, so maybe you should try to look for weakening the opponent structure. But black played passive, which I can understand after your position being extremely hard. You don't want to lose any more pawns. Here, probable moves could be a3 and queen takes b2. If queen takes b2, I don't see a direct queen trap, but you could go for some lines where you take bishop takes, a takes, rook b8, queen comes to a3, and you have some playable ideas here with activating your rook on the queen side. And now if black's king castles on the king side, it's slightly easier for you to hold the position. Other thing is with queen takes b2, queen takes b2, direct rook b8, queen c6. You have some chances of trapping the queen, but I don't think they work out because after rook b3, queen comes to b6. But the one advantage black has got is that your pieces on the queen side are extremely active, and the black queen is just running away. And the amount of tempo we can see, queen goes to b7, queen comes to a6, queen comes to a3. It's just a loss of 3 tempos, and you have an active knight, bishop, and rook. So this should have been a better variation played, but I don't argue with the move rook b8. It's just a natural move. The other variation here, if black didn't play rook b8, was a3. If you didn't want to go hopping with your queen, bishop takes, pawn takes, and then the c2 pawn is hanging directly. So this position is pretty double-edged, I feel, and this was a better chance for white, but it's okay. I don't doubt what white played. So after rook b8, knight takes pawn. Then this move, which I saw bishop e7, was I think a blunder, because bishop d7, you're basically saying that I want to play extremely solid, but after a series of trades, it could get a bit messy for black. I think a better move would have been directly bishop takes c2. You are getting a free pawn, take it. Knight would have came back. a6, you click the queen. Queen comes back, and then knight b4, which is getting the initiative on the queen side, and you're getting an extremely aggressive position. But it's okay. Then white played queen d3. Queen d3 again was an unnecessary move. You have an active queen. Why don't you just keep it there? A better move would have been long castle. And now the problems for black comes is that again you're threatening to play rook e8, and now your bishop can come to e5, and there's too much counterplay against this king with these open files and diagonals, and this knight on e5 is like a monster. So after white played queen d3, black made a mistake, which was a6, because now long castle was played. a6 was a mistake, I feel, because it was unnecessary. You have a pawn here. There's no attack against it. Why are you pushing it? I feel like it's a move black would play if you have nothing to do. So a6 was played, long castle, which is finally white played a good move after long castling. Knight b4. Knight b4 is like a move I don't understand pretty well, because after knight takes b4, bishop takes b4, you are helping white open more files, because if white plays c3, rook e1, rook e1, and then there's this open file and you're just helping. So here white did play c3, c3, bishop came back to d6, rook e1 check, and knight e7. So knight e7 is a clear mistake. So I want you to pause the video and maybe try to find the win here for white. So if you thought for this on a while, it might have taken some time. It was a mate in 6. The move is queen goes to g6 check, king goes to f8, Queen takes f6 check. King goes to g8. Queen takes rook. King comes back to f7. Knight comes to g5. King goes to g6. Queen comes to h7. King goes to f6, and queen goes to f7 mate. This was not an easy pattern to find in the game, especially this being a blitz game. So I don't doubt, but I feel like queen b5 is a move that should have been played. Because queen b5 is not that hard of a move to spot. King comes to f8, check, and if king goes to d8, then you have. If king goes to b8, then I think you have knight g5 with a clear crushing attack. So it's okay. White played g3, which is probably a missed win. But then after that, black played h3 again. You have a save mate in 6, which white misses again. Then white plays queen b4. I don't think white is seeing the plan of the mate in 6, queen b4. b5. Now black is trying to expand on the queen side because of this king being on the queen side. Maybe there's some plans of c4 opening up the position. So after that, white plays h5. h5 is a blunder because after you play h5, white played queen h4, which is a mistake. It was a blunder because, again, queen g6 check, king f8, queen takes pawn, and the same queen takes pawn. And then you have a very active queen here, and you could play c5, and if takes, you get bishop takes with a clear mating attack. I don't think it's a mate, but you get a huge material advantage. a5 is just slightly weakening. But knight a4, knight h4, white doesn't see the plan. Castle is a move which I would consider I would not play myself. It's extremely risky, and like you have to be 100% sure that you're castling, and you have to be sure that your king is safe, which I don't think is true. Queen at e4 was just a mistake. I feel. Again, you're falling into a pin. I think this pin works. And so queen e4 was a normal move. You're just playing aggressive. Knight rook f6, trying to defend the weaknesses on this last rank. bishop bishop d3, getting some clear mating potential. Bishop f6 was a good find, I feel. And then queen e2, I feel, was one of the possibilities. Other possibility is queen e6, but I think queen e6 might lead to some suspicious position. Queen e2, but then bishop takes h1. Queen here, the only move which is good is queen g4. Rook blocks. Queen h6 check. Rook blocks, and you get a perpetual, and I think you can take a draw. If white doesn't take the perpetual by moving the king to h8, you take this pawn. King has to move back. You can still take the perpetual if you want. It's a clear draw here. But here, white makes the mistake of bringing the queen to h5. After queen h5, king h2. I think you guys should see the clear mate in 2 here. It's queen h8, knight blocks, knight g6 mate. So this was a clear missed win. But the knight g6, white didn't see the mate. King h8. The king h8 is a blunder, apparently. But I think it's inhumane for anyone to find this. It's a mate in 9, which is extremely hard to find. So I could consider king h8 as a normal, natural move. Knight takes e7, bishop takes e7, bishop f5. Bishop f5 is an extremely natural move, but the problem with bishop h5 is you're currently a whole rook down. The other move should have been rook takes h1, and now at least you're only an exchange down. But okay, white played bishop h5. You're a clear rook down. Bishop comes back. Bishop bishop g6. Here, white could have directly played bishop g6, but it comes with bishop f5 directly. If you think bishop g6 is winning, no, it's not. You're just winning back an exchange, which you're probably down a piece if you count that out. Bishop d5, bishop g6, bishop g6, again, the normal move. King d7, which is a blunder, by the way, but I think it's extremely unnatural for someone to find it. But you are blundering the rook back. So now, if you look at the position, it's basically black is a piece up, but over here in this position, the correct move is supposed to be bishop. Sorry, queen to d7. You might think it's a bad move, but queen to d7 is just holding the position together. So bishop g6 was played. Then king e7. It's an acceptable move. Bishop takes now rook. Bishop takes bishop. Queen takes bishop. Here it's white is again the piece up. It's what black wanted, but then white has a lot of compensation for that piece now with the amount of pawns white has. White is up by 3 pawns, which is equal compensation. King goes to e7, which is a blunder. You're basically giving up a free piece. At this point, white is winning. If this was a standard game, white was winning, but here is when the players enter time pressure. So then queen takes e6. Queen Queen goes to d6 is a clear blunder. Queen takes queen. If the pawn is pinned. If queen takes queen, pawn is pinned. You can't take it because the rook is giving check. So that was a clear blunder. Queen goes to f7, g4, sorry b4, c5, a4, c6. These are all clear moves. I don't disagree with any of these. It's just quick rapid. There's no point analyzing the game after this. Queen c6. And queen at this moment, queen f6 is a clear blunder. Black just blunders the queen. The game goes on for a few more moves. It's just blitz. They're just blitzing moved out. You can see the end, but it's pretty obvious that after this whole move, black won with a nice, beautiful mate on f6. It's a pretty nice combination. But this was basically it. Thank you for watching. So I'm probably going to put one opening video and then do one game analysis. The games are just going to be interesting games, mostly of great, amazing players, and some games might be mine because I've played a lot of games in the London, and some are instructive, not all of them. So I'm probably going to go 2 videos or one video with this teaching the London system, and one video of a game from the London system, which is pretty interesting. They are both not extremely related, but they're like 2 different series. So if you're interested, please subscribe and thank you for watching.